Alright, y'all. Today you are working on finishing writing the paragraph that we've been working on that compares Lawrence to the res. As a reminder, you were tasked with choosing either that Lawrence and the res are similar and providing a reason why they're similar, or explaining that they're different and explaining to me why they are different. What's in front of me now is the first draft of a paragraph that one of your classmates wrote. I am going to read through it and make the edits that I would make to it as an example for you. If you're watching this video, you should probably have already finished your own paragraph and be working on proofreading. So I started off. Lawrence and the res are similar because both articles show the drug use and the effects of the drugs like violence and death. When the author states in PTI, the talentless Indians will get drunk and beat the shit out of any available losers. It indicates that in PTI the drugs caused fights because they were drunk and had nothing else to do. And when the author states 2,069 people died in an overdose of opioid in 2016, it indicates that the drugs led to death because they overdosed and made many people die. Therefore, both PTI and Lawrence are similar because of the drug use. Alright, so there are a few issues with this paragraph, which is why I chose it, so I can show you the examples. But we're going to start with the claim. The first sentence here is your claim, and it reads, Lawrence and the res are similar because both articles show the drug use and the effects of the drugs like violence and death. My biggest issue with this is I like this claim, but it can be improved by just being more concise, which means shorter. Because you could have rewritten it as Lawrence and the res are similar because, and then you don't need both articles. You don't need that they show anything, because, but you could take Lawrence and the res are similar because both cities suffer from drugs that lead to violence. Okay? And if I'm saying that, now the argument becomes Lawrence and the res are similar because they suffered drugs, and the drugs leads to violence. Alright, you can leave out death, because death is a form of violence. And you don't need that both articles show, because you're eventually going to start talking about the articles. Now, the next issue that we have with this is the phrase, when the author states in PTI. This is an attempt at introducing the quote, which, if you're using the helpful hints from the res and Lawrence paragraph, this, while it does introduce the quote, it does tell me where the quote's coming from, it doesn't give me enough information. To start off with, you say the author, but you know who the author is. You should go in and you should say Sherman Alexie. But beyond that, like, this isn't actually Sherman Alexie speaking that says the talentless Indians will get drunk and beat the shit out of any available losers. This is Junior. Alright, so in this, you should be taking the res and Lawrence paragraph, those helpful hinters, but here, the introduction to the evidence piece are exactly what I was telling people to do when they introduced the quote, and then I even gave a few examples of what we would be looking for here. And it seems like, and this is something I gotta say, a lot of you have been doing, people aren't reading the examples and then aren't reading the directions they're getting, and you left it at when the author states in PTI. I might improve this by saying, Junior demonstrates the issues that the res suffers with drugs when he says. Because now you've told me who's speaking, you told me that he's going to be talking about drugs, and then you get me to a part where he starts to, you can describe what he said. From here, the talentless Indians will get drunk and beat the shit out of any available losers. This is great, but we should have had a page number right here just telling me where it comes from. It indicates that in PTI the drugs caused fights because they were drunk and had nothing else to do. There should be a period right here. But if this is your only sentence, if you're going to tell me that the talentless Indians will get drunk and beat the shit out of any available losers, fair. Right, this indicates that in PTI the drugs caused fights because they were drunk. Like, that's a stretch to say that people are causing fights because they're drunk. I might change it to say it indicates that in the Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Indian, when people get drunk, it leads to them fighting. And this happens because the people lack the talent to partake in the powwow that was happening. Period. Alright, and then this transition, this is a very weak transition. And when the author states, Uh, this is weak for a few different reasons. A, this and is like, this was a run-on sentence before I put the period here. But then when the author states, this is a different author. I was like, they're writing these two introductions to the quote without giving any indication that you're not talking about the same person at the same time. So again, you should have gone into the article and used the title or the name of the author. But when Jeff Kenworthy, who wrote and then gave me the title of the article you're reading, talks about the drug issues in Lawrence, he says. Alright? And then continuing from there, that's again, you should have been introducing the quote again. 2,069 people died in overdose of opioid in 2016. Alright, that's the end of the quote, but it was not closed off with quotation marks, so I don't know that, so it looks like all of this is still a quote. And then I'm questioning if this is even factually true. 2,069 people in the city of Lawrence, we'd be talking a lot more if that was the number of people who died. This was just poor choice of evidence because I'm pretty sure this number is talking about the entire state of Massachusetts or possibly New Hampshire. And the evidence itself doesn't even show like there's violence here. If you're talking about people getting drunk and beating people, we should be talking about the drug use and the violence that comes about it, not just the death. But even using this evidence, 2,069 people died in an overdose of opioid in 2016. It indicates that the drugs led to death because they overdosed and made many people die. That doesn't actually indicate that. That says that. That is a fact. You just repeated the information you got in the quote. So this sentence right here is useless. You need to tell me, why does this matter? Why does the fact that all these people are dying because of opioids, what does that show us about Lawrence? Which again is why I was discussing this isn't very strong evidence to begin with. Therefore, both PTI and Lawrence are similar because of drug use. This is weird in that your claim is not saying PTI. Your claim is saying the res. So this should still say the res. Are similar because of drug use, but then you leave out the violence piece that you just talked about all through here. Alright, so this therefore statement should have been improved to. Therefore, both the res and Lawrence are similar because the drug use leads to violence in both cities. Okay? You should take what I said here, and honestly, this is about the average paragraph that I get from students. But everything I just said you need to consider as you revise your own paragraph to include some of these things. But honestly, the biggest thing I can tell you is the mistakes I see are the same mistakes that in the Lawrence paragraph with all these helpful hints. If I see mistakes happening, it's because people have not reviewed this. So please review that before you move on. Alright? I expect you to be working on editing your paragraph as you go from here on out.